This is Dr. Ron once more, and I'm here to bring you another episode of Boomer Life Lessons and Stories. Today's episode really is entitled Breaking Sweat and the Act of Becoming. And I might also add, what does Matthew McConaughey have to do with all of this? Well, before we go there, please like, share, and subscribe, and that will help us tremendously to reach others and perhaps maybe say some things that might be entertaining or helpful to them. Okay, this is episode 52, so we're marching on. And we get great joy at sharing with you with each of these episodes. And we do hope that some of our life experiences and the stories that we tell that are intended to bring about some type of greater understanding or lesson that might be useful to your life, we hope that we're achieving that for you. Now, getting back to the great philosopher and actor, Matthew McConaughey. I would say for those of you that kind of casually know about this individual, perhaps you should go out and watch this reference video that I would suggest and recommend to you. The title of the video is Why Don't They Teach This in Every School? And it's about speeches that Matthew has given and some of his thoughts when he was being interviewed. And that's the reason why I called him a great philosopher, because he has some keen insights, and a lot of his insights really do line up with much of what we've said on this channel. And I think that you'll find them interesting as well. Now, I've also talked about that anything worthwhile is never easy or free, and that anything that you do accomplish really takes a lot of hard work, right? So we know that if we want to achieve anything in our life, it's going to take an effort on our part. Well, don't let your failures in trying to strive toward this achievement lead to your disappointment. Now, that's really kind of a paraphrase of some of the things that Matthew McConaughey has stated in a lot of his different speeches. And I've also said from this standpoint that failures are important to us. Not that they're going to impede our advancement in our career, but they will help us understand more about ourselves, our strengths, our weaknesses, and they will enlighten us in terms of what we must do different in order to be better going forward. Because it's all about creating your future, and you only create your future by doing the things that you need to do that are sufficient and necessary today so that that future that you want to make a reality happens tomorrow. And of course, tomorrow is a metaphor. It could be tomorrow, next week, next year, but whatever it is, it's going to take hard work for you, and you will encounter failures along the way. But don't be overcome by your disappointments. As a matter of fact, we want to celebrate the failures so that we can learn from them. If you take your failures and you look at them from the standpoint that, oh gosh, I'm going to beat myself up for it because I failed and I should know better, I can do better, I'm a disappointment, and so forth and so forth, you're throwing up barrier after barrier in front of you that's going to prevent you from getting to the future that you want to be in and you want your family to have. Because everything we do, of course, is for the betterment of our family and for our career. So when we fail, we should actually celebrate. Now, you guys are going to laugh because we do something in engineering. And before we get ready to release our product, our work product, to the next person in the development cycle, internal to the company or perhaps external to the company, but generally it's internal to the company, we hold something called a peer review. And the peer review is done to extract out, pull out of that work product any deficiencies and discrepancies that we see that might impinge upon its quality and so create problems down the line. So we have these peer reviews, and invariably we find several action items to go do to fix some of the things that we found wrong in that work product that we created. And oh, by the way, the longer it takes you to understand the problem and actually identify the problem, the more expensive it becomes to fix later and later and later in the product life cycle. So the earlier you can identify the failures, the problems, the less expensive it's going to be to fix it. And I have been known to actually give spot awards to my teams that have uncovered through the peer review process defects in the products that they created. Now, why would I do that? I wanted to encourage them to actually do better, strive to do better, and understand where they failed and what they needed to do differently to fix the product before it went to the next person downstream, but also not to do that sort of thing again. Because as long as we can learn from our failures, our mistakes, we're going to grow and get better and better and better. So really, you celebrate your failures, not to the point that you're happy to make failures each and every time. You celebrate them because you're learning from them, and it's going to allow you to create that future you want to be in. Now, this next thing is really a quote from Matthew McConaughey. He said, "Joy is the feeling we have from doing the things that we're fashioned to do." Now, what that means is that we have a purpose in our life. And generally, we have an interest to be an engineer, or an interest to be an accountant, or a lawyer, or a doctor, a medical doctor. Whatever that is, your desire to be that person at some point in the future. And when you achieve, that's going to prevent you from having disappointments, right? But he also said that joy really is something that is constant, right? It's always there. It's kind of a state that you're in, and knowing that you're doing the things that you were fashioned for or designed to be, or however you want to phrase it, that you grew into from a young child on up to an adult. And really, I've used this kind of phrase, this idea in this way. My wife and I will joke at each other, and she'll hammer down on me because I perhaps did something that wasn't quite optimal, shall we say. And then I'll tell her, well, don't take all the joy out of my life, and she'll get a big laugh out of that. We do make mistakes, and we can do better, and we hold each other accountable, but not in any caustic way. We do it for the betterment of our family. But this idea of stealing joy is something that is very important to all of us. You see, if we do and are doing the things that we love to do in our work life and in our personal life, then we have a joy about it. That joy is constant, according to McConaughey. And I kind of agree with him. Joy is different. And this is something that was really brought to a point by him, and I hadn't really given it much thought. He said joy is different from happiness, and happiness comes from things that we achieve, but when we fail, we have disappointments, right? So happiness is here and there, and it depends on the outcome of what we're doing. Whereas joy is kind of a state of being. You achieve it by doing the things that you need to be doing, that is kind of who you are. And I've said this in many cases. People that write books and poetry and do research, they don't do that as a job. They do it because they're driven to do it. There's something internal to them that puts them in that mindset, that drives them forward, that motivates them, that creates that idea that this is important and I need to achieve. And while they're doing it, while they're in the process, there's great joy. So you see, there is a difference between joy and happiness. So I do quite very much agree with Matthew McConaughey. So in all of that, there's something that we have to understand. If we strive toward doing something, we're actually, metaphorically perhaps, or in reality, breaking a sweat. And what I mean by that is that you're working towards some end state. You're doing something that must be done, that is important to you and your family, or on the job, right? So when we strive to do something, to make something happen, we're actually doing real work. We're breaking a sweat. And we can simply say this: Anything worthwhile is never easy or free. It takes hard work, and success takes hard work. Now, I do know there's going to be some people say, well, look at so-and-so and look at so-and-so. They just kind of accidentally stumbled into their success. And that may well be. But for the most of us out there, it takes hard work. It takes a focus, a drive to do the things that we do well, and striving toward that future that we want to create that is better for us, for our family, and for the companies that we work for. So McConaughey really says breaking a sweat is an act of creation. Now you think about that. It really is. When you go to do something, that something does not yet exist, whether it's some physical thing that you're creating or some idea that you want to formulate and then cast out there into the audience or your peers. Whatever you're about to do, it doesn't yet exist. But when you do the work and you spend the time thinking critically, and you actually then produce it, whatever it is, something physical or some idea, some intellectual property, that is done by breaking a sweat, and it is an act of creation. And I think that is such a very poetic point to make. All that we do each and every day toward bettering ourselves and our career and our family is really each and every day an act of creation. Now, why is that? Well, it's an act of creation because we're putting in place today, we're investing in ourselves. And that's another idea that McConaughey brought forth in this talk he gave. The act of creating is investing in yourself, that hard work that you do and striving forward to create the future, the destination that doesn't exist just yet. That is investing in yourself. That hard work is something that you can withdraw at some point in the future from the bank or from the bank of goodwill. So you see, when we really break a sweat, we're doing something that is very creative, something that doesn't exist now exists. We're investing in ourselves by doing so. Have you noticed nowhere does this happen without any effort? It really doesn't. That's the reason why we have to continually, on a daily basis, break the sweat. Investing in yourself gives you the freedom. What does that mean? It's the freedom to choose. What does that mean? It means the freedom to choose the future, to create the future that you want. By how? By working hard at working hard, endeavoring to persevere, laser focused on that thing that you want, place you want to be, that thing you want to create for the betterment of yourself, your career, and your family. So this is also very important. Breaking a sweat and the act of becoming is what is going on when we stay focused and try to build upon and learn from our mistakes and achieve that state where we're doing the things that we want to do for the betterment of ourselves and our family. That is where we have our joy, and that is where we create that future for ourselves and for our family. And I hope that you achieve that. I hope you achieve that state of joy, knowing that you're right where you need to be, doing the things that you need to do for yourself and for your family. And with that, my friends, you take care, all the best, and I will see you in the next episode.